The Rabos International Airport came alive between May 16 and 17 as delegates from across Africa touched down in Monrovia for the 22nd AFROSA-E Governing Board meeting. Flags of members of supreme audit institutions floated alongside Liberia's red, white, and blue, marking the first time the General Auditing Commission hosted this continental gathering. One by one, auditors general and delegations from Kenya, South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, Malawi, the Gambia, and 20 other nations were received with warm Liberian hospitality by Liberia's traditional queen, Judy Andy. The message was clear. Liberia was not just hosting a meeting.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the General Auditing Commission, the Director General and staff members, I am Queen Judy Andy, the Commissioner of Liberia. I bring you greetings from the good government of Liberia. Excellency, agriculture in your country, this is rice. This is cola.
Wow.
And this is handmade from Liberia.
Okay.
So because there are two women and one man, we'll take care of you first. He said no longer men in the front and the women in the back, but together we walk side by side.
Yes.
So you walk side by side with your sister. And so we welcome you on behalf of the Director General of the General Auditing Commission of the Republic of Liberia. Beautiful. Your Excellencies, on behalf of the General Auditing Commission, the Director General, and other members of the family, we say welcome to Liberia. We want to welcome you a traditional way in Liberia. This is rice from farming. This is the kola nut, and this is from our forest. This is the calabash. So welcome you in the name of the Father. On behalf of the Auditor General of the Republic of Liberia and His Excellency Joseph, President of the Republic of Liberia, welcome you to the land of the great.
The message was clear that Liberia was not just hosting a meeting, but showcasing its resilience, reform, and renewal. On day one of the conference, the tone shifted from ceremonial to strategic, where auditors general gathered under the theme strengthening public sector accountability through innovation and collaboration, convened in a governing board meeting. These auditors used the 2 days indoor session to discuss critical issues, the adoption of digital tools, peer review mechanism, and the role of size and debt audit. On day 3, at the Eddin Johnson Sirleaf Ministerial Complex, which was the formal opening of the ceremony, graced by the President of Liberia, Joseph Yuma Boakat, witnessed dignitaries and senior government officials making speeches, all on a collective fight to strengthen accountability. Opening the program to welcome his colleagues to Liberia, Liberia's Auditor General P. Gaswa Jackson outlined the purpose of the gathering and provided insights on GAC's significant contributions to the fight against corruption. The chairperson of AFROSA-E and Auditor General of Kenya, Nancy Katungu, lauded Liberia on behalf of her colleagues.
Of 13% in 2024 to 37% in 2025, with some ministries, agencies, and commissions averaging between 90 to 93% implementation of audit recommendations in 2025. The prospects of subsequent improvement remains highly likely given the increase in awareness of audit follow-up activities and the expansion in the publicity and visibility of audit follow-up reports by the media in 2025. These improvements have resulted into stronger internal controls environment, better compliance to laws and regulations, and ultimately better service delivery to the people of Liberia. Through local and international stakeholders' engagements, we have also improved the independent status of the Supreme Audit Institution of Liberia, an important milestone for enabling objective scrutiny and oversight of government activities. In 2024, the World Bank rated the General Auditing Commission, or SAR Liberia, 8/10, or substantially independent. On its independent scoring metrics, the highest score for a Supreme Audit Institution in the West African sub-region. However, a critical component of SAR independence was still outstanding: the operationalization of our financial independence. Financial independence, as defined by our legal framework, the GAC Act of 2014, is operationalized through 50% disbursement of the Commission's annual budget after the passage of the national budget, with the remaining 50% to be disbursed within the 7th month of the fiscal year. The United States Government Accountability Office followed our independence progress and invited me to make a presentation on our independence journey and progress at the International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions, INTOSAR, Donor Conference in Romania in September 2024. That meeting will follow by Liberia being included as one of 6 countries to conceptualize and operationalize the SAR Global Independence Project. Following a joint meeting at the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD headquarters in Paris, France, a team comprising of representatives from INTOSAR, OECD, AFROSA-E, and the United States Government Accountability Office visited Liberia in June 2025. The team met with a host of high-profile government officials, including the Office of His Excellency the President, the Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Pro Tempore of the Liberian Senate, the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, anti-graft institutions, development partners, civil society organizations, and members of the media to re-emphasize the importance of operationalizing our financial independence. The government of Liberia made huge commitments to review the requests of those citing prevailing budgetary challenges. Today, I am pleased to report that the government of Liberia, through the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, has disbursed 50% of our approved budget to the Commission, consistent with the GSC Act of 2014, for the very first time since the passage of the Act. This is indeed a demonstration of good governance practices and commitment to transparency and accountability. Your Excellency, Mr. President, we are grateful for the support. To reflect our current independent status by a credible external body, we have requested the World Bank country team in Liberia to perform an independent assessment in early 2027. The onus is now on the government of Liberia to ensure that the subsequent disbursement requirement is implemented to solidify our approved independent status. We have also enhanced the status and visibility of our Supreme Audit institution in the Intosai community by taking on some key leadership responsibilities and facilitating presentations at major events. In October of 2025, Your Humble Servant, the Auditor General of Liberia, was elected by colleagues, Auditors General in the West African sub-region, to serve as Chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, Supreme Audit Institutions, ECOSAI, to lead the mandate of the organization for the next 2 years from 2026 to 2027. In 2024, I was also elected by my AFROSA-E colleagues to serve as a representative for AFROSA-E on the AFROSA Governing Board from 2025 to 2027. We were also officially invited to facilitate a number of presentations, including an invitation from Intosai to moderate the English-speaking session of Team 1, the role of Supreme Audit Institutions in auditing central banks and government activities during financial and economic crisis at the International Congress of Supreme Audit Institutions, the INCOSAI, in October 2025. A presentation on behalf of AFROSA-E on Team 2, the audit of grants and financial aids at the 16th AFROSA General Assembly in Tripoli, Libya in December 2024, and an invitation from the Office of the Auditor General of Peru to serve as expert panelists to lead the high-level Table 2 team from traditional control to intelligent control, data and technology in the fight against transnational corruption at the International Summit on Fighting Against Corruption hosted in Lima, Peru in February 2026, to name a few. We also signed some monumental memorandum of understanding during the period under review. We reignited our long-term relationship with the Swedish National Audit Office by signing an initial 2-year MOU for the conduct of capacity building initiatives in 2022, which was subsequently extended for an additional 5 years from 2025 to 2029. In December 2024, we were invited to Washington, D.C. to sign a landmark 5-year memorandum of understanding from 2025 to 2029 with the United States Government Accountability Office for capacity support, and particularly for the opportunity of at least one experienced auditor from South Liberia to participate in the USGAO prestigious International Auditor Fellowship Program. A program renowned for mentoring international public sector auditors. We also signed a 5-year Memorandum of Understanding from 2005 to 2009 with the Global Fund for the conduct of external audits for Global Fund projects in Liberia, and have maintained active professional relationships with and received positive feedbacks from the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, for performing exclusive external audit services for their projects in Liberia. And this week, we proudly host the prestigious annual governing board meeting of AFROSA-E for the first time in the existence of the Commission. All of these are evidence of key international stakeholders' trust, dedication to transparency and accountability initiatives, and our emerging reputation within the INTOSAI community. Mr. President, officials of government, esteemed delegates and special guests, as we demand transparency and accountability from our auditees, we have also demonstrated that we must submit ourselves to the same standard. The auditor getting audited is not a contradiction. It is the foundation of our legitimacy. That is why, consistent with the GAC Act of 2014, we are audited annually by auditors vetted and recruited through the Public Accounts Committee of the National Legislature. Currently, the Supreme Audit Institution of Sierra Leone, and previously by the Supreme Audit Institution of Kenya. Over the past 5 years, our audit reviews have shown strong internal controls environment at the GAC, and our financial statements have consistently produced clean or unqualified audit opinions, an indication of setting the pace for what we demand. We have also facilitated the conduct of 2 quality assurance reviews of our audit processes and have initiated mechanisms for expediting areas of improvement reported during these quality assurance reviews. Now, going forward, we have also made progress in facilitating full automation of our audit processes through the Governance, Reform, and Accountability Transformation, or GREAT project, sponsored by the World Bank. We are also in the process of commissioning a pioneering and comprehensive audit on revenue from extractive industry, given the discrepancies we have observed while performing a limited assurance engagement with the Liberia Extractive Industries Transparency Initiatives, LEITI, and the growing public interest in the subject matter. In conclusion, distinguished honorable auditors general and our esteemed delegates, the real value of this conference will be in the partnership we build and in the practices we take home. Our continent and the world at large face complex fiscal challenges. Citizens everywhere are asking harder questions about how public money is spent and what results it delivers. They want services that work, budgets that deliver, and leaders who answer for results. Supreme audit institutions cannot be bystanders in this demand. We must be relentless in our duty to protect the public purse and evidence base of transparency, accountability, and good governance in our respective countries. The decisions we make should be followed up in parliaments, in ministries and agencies, and in communities across our regions. The solutions we design here must travel across borders and improve the lives of citizens we may never meet. To achieve same, we must be candid about our challenges, generous about our recommendations, and bold in setting our priorities. I thank AFROSA-E, I thank the AFROSA-E Secretariat for their tireless work in aiding in the organization of this conference. I thank the government of Liberia for supporting this conference and our internal hard-working organizing committee for the months of service to this project. And I thank you, distinguished Auditors General and delegates, for making the journey to Monrovia, Liberia. I wish this 22nd AFROSA-E Governing Board meeting and 2026 Strategic Review every success. May our deliberations be fruitful, our decisions be strategic, our network reinforced, and your stay in Monrovia, Liberia be memorable. Thank you.
The chairperson of AFROSA-E and Auditor General of Kenya, Nancy Katungu, lauded Liberia on behalf of her colleagues.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Liberia, Joseph Numa Boakai Sr., Your Excellency, the former President of Liberia, and I must say an African icon, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Allow me to say that we thank the people of Liberia because if there was ever a glass ceiling, you allowed Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to smash it without a sweat. Thank you, Madam. The Honorable Jean-Lee Kanga Lawrence, President pro tempore of the Liberian Senate. The Honorable Clarence Gar, Joint Chair of the Public Accounts Committee of the Liberian Legislature. Dr. Antoinette Sai, former Minister of Finance of Liberia. The Honorable Leadership of the Legislature and Chairs of Committees, the Honorable Ministers present and senior government officials, Excellency Ambassadors and members of the Diplomatic Corps, our host and the Auditor General of the Republic of Liberia, Honorable Gaswa Jackson, Honorable Auditors General and heads of SAI delegations, members and partners of AFROSA-E, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to each and every one of you. It is with great honor that we welcome you to the 2026 AFROSA-E Strategic Review, closely following the 22nd Governing Board meeting, which we concluded yesterday here in Liberia. We gather here in the beautiful Monrovia, graciously hosted by our esteemed colleague, the Honorable Auditor General, Honorable Gaswa Jackson, and his dedicated team. We are especially grateful for the presence of Your Excellency, the President Joseph Boakai of the Republic of Liberia. Your Excellency, your presence is a powerful demonstration of your commitment to accountability, transparency, and sound public financial management, values that unite us all in the meeting here. We are truly grateful to be hosted in Liberia, a nation whose history is both unique and inspiring. As Africa's oldest republic, Liberia stands as a symbol of resilience, independence, and enduring hope. Your journey as a people and as a nation, marked by perseverance and renewal, mirrors the core ideals that guide our institutions: integrity, stewardship, and public trust. Your Excellency, the President, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting comes at an important moment for our region, our institutions, and the public sector accountability landscape across Africa. As supreme audit institutions, we operate in an environment of growing complexity. Governments across our continent are under increasing pressure to deliver quality public services, manage constrained resources responsibly, respond to economic uncertainties and the frequent shocks, strengthen resilience, and meet the ever-growing expectations of citizens. In this context, the role of supreme audit institutions has never been more critical. Indeed, looking at the United Nations 2025 World Public Sector Report on Supreme Audit Institutions and Sustainable Development Goals, the report, notes that supreme audit institutions provide governments with critical information on the efficiency and effectiveness of government programs that support the Sustainable Development Goals, and I may add the African Union Agenda 2063 and the National Development Plans. We contribute to sound public finance management and stronger budgets to deliver on the SDGs and the National Development Plans. We advance equity, we advance equality, we advance inclusion in service delivery by governments, which are the core themes of the SDGs and the African Agenda 2063. Over the past 2 days, Your Excellency, we have engaged in our governing board meeting where we reflected on our achievements, confronted challenges, and charted the course for a sustainable future. These discussions have reinforced the value of our collective commitment to strengthening public sector auditing in our region. This strategic review, therefore, provides us with more than an opportunity to reflect on our work. It is an opportunity to reaffirm the value of strong, independent, professional, and future-ready supreme audit institutions which can effectively support transparency, accountability, and improved governance outcomes across our region, and hence our presence here in Liberia, because we've seen tremendous growth for the SAI of Liberia and accountability in this great nation. Your Excellency, the President, ladies and gentlemen, this year marked the first year of AFROSA-E's 2025-2026 implementation of our strategic plan, and this new strategic cycle represents an important commitment by our region to continue strengthening the performance, the relevance, and the impact of supreme audit institutions through collaboration, innovation, and shared learning. As we reflect on the progress made during this first year, one message stands out clearly. Regional cooperation remains one of our greatest strengths. No supreme audit institution can respond effectively to today's challenges in isolation. The issues we face, whether related to public debt, infrastructure financing, digital transformation, climate pressures, or service delivery, are increasingly interconnected and very complex. The value of AFROSA-E lies in our ability to learn from one another, support one another, and collectively build the skills, the systems, and institutional resilience required to respond to these challenges. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, over the past year, we have continued to invest in practical initiatives that strengthen the capacity of our member supreme audit institutions to deliver high-quality, value-adding audits that are relevant, responsive, and, most importantly, impactful. Importantly, we are seeing a growing shift towards audit work that speaks directly to issues affecting the daily lives of citizens. Across the region, supreme audit institutions are increasingly directing their efforts towards thematic areas of significant public interest and national importance. And this is a direct response to the needs and requirements of the leadership of our nations. This is reflected in the performance audit reports that will be nominated for this year's Best Performance Audit Reports Prize. The audits address matters that directly influence governance, public trust, service delivery, and the efficient use of public resources. They demonstrate not only technical audit competence, but also a growing commitment by supreme audit institutions to produce work that contributes meaningfully to better outcomes for the citizens. At the same time, we also recognize that delivering impactful audits requires ongoing investment in quality, efficiency, and innovation. AFROSA-E has therefore continued to prioritize capacity-building initiatives aimed at strengthening audit methodologies, professional competencies, and institutional systems across the region. A key area of focus has been digital transformation. As governments increasingly operate within digital environments, Supreme Audit institutions must also evolve to remain effective and relevant. The 2024 UN Pact for the Future Global Digital Compact and the Declaration on Future Generations, which our governments have subscribed to, encourages governments to seize the opportunity presented by science, technology, and innovation for the benefit of the people and the planet, while ensuring that no one is left behind. As a community of Supreme Audit institutions, we have continued to support member Supreme Audit institutions through digitalization initiatives, including the implementation and enhancement of audit management systems such as ACIT, our very own audit management system, as well as initiatives that promote the use of technology-enabled audit approaches. Your Excellency, closely linked to this is the growing importance of data analytics in public sector auditing. Data analytics is transforming the way audits are planned, conducted, and reported. It strengthens evidence-based auditing, improves efficiency, enables deeper analysis of risk patterns and expenditure trends, and enhances the ability of auditors to identify areas requiring oversight and intervention. Importantly, data analytics also strengthens the capacity of Supreme Audit institutions to provide timely and credible insights that support better decision-making within government institutions. This is one of the important themes we will be exploring during this strategic review. Excuse me. Your Excellency, the President, ladies and gentlemen, the second thematic focus in our discussion, the audit of public debt, is equally significant and timely. Across the globe, and particularly within developing economies, governments continue to face increasing fiscal pressures, high interest rates, external shocks, and declining official development assistance. The World Bank, in its Africa Pulse publication of October 2025, noted that the risk of sovereign debt distress in sub-Saharan Africa remains elevated, with significant implications for fiscal stability and development outcomes. The number of countries in debt distress or at high risk of debt distress had nearly tripled from 8 in 2014 to 23 in 2025, representing 49% of the region. And further, the World Bank, in its Africa Economic Update of April 2026, just last month, indicates that sub-Saharan Africa's economic recovery from successive global shocks is losing momentum, with growth projections for 2026 revised downwards. This is indeed a worrying trend for us. Public borrowing plays an important role in financing development priorities, infrastructure, and economic recovery. However, rising debt levels heighten the importance of transparency, accountability, and effective oversight. Supreme Audit institutions, therefore, have a critical responsibility to provide assurance on how public debt is managed, reported, and governed. Effective oversight in this area contributes not only to stronger public financial management, but also to public confidence, fiscal sustainability, and long-term economic resilience. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, as institutions mandated to safeguard accountability, Supreme Audit institutions must continue to strengthen their capacity to audit increasingly complex financial environments and emerging governance risks. What is encouraging is that we are not undertaking this journey alone. The progress achieved over the past year reflects the collective efforts and shared commitment of our member SAIs, our partners, and the AFROSA-E Secretariat. In this regard, we remain deeply appreciative of the support provided by our institutional and funding partners, whose collaboration continues to enable impactful programs and sustainable capacity building initiatives across our region. This collective effort to regional capacity building was recognized when AFROSA-E received the Kimi Makwetu Prize awarded by the International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions in the last Congress in Egypt late last year. We should applaud ourselves as AFROSA-E. We are proud of that recognition. This recognition represents an important milestone for AFROSA-E. It reflects international recognition of the progress being made to build stronger, more professional, and more effective supreme audit institutions capable of delivering high-quality, value-adding audits. The recognition also affirms the importance of sustained regional collaboration, peer learning, and long-term investment in institutional capacity development. We accepted this recognition with humility and as encouragement to continue advancing professional excellence, accountability, and innovation across our member supreme audit institutions. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, as we look ahead, we remain conscious that the environment in which supreme audit institutions operate will continue to evolve rapidly. Expectations of public institutions are increasing. Citizens are demanding greater accountability, transparency, efficiency, and responsiveness. New technologies are reshaping governance systems and public financial management processes. These developments require us to remain adaptive, collaborative, and forward-looking. They also reinforce the importance of platforms such as this strategic review, where leaders, practitioners, and partners can engage openly on emerging challenges, exchange practical experiences, and collectively shape the future of public sector auditing in our region. Ultimately, the strength of AFROSA-E lies not only in the programs we implement, but in the spirit of partnership and mutual support that defines our organization. Together, we are building stronger institutions. Together, we are strengthening professional excellence. Together, we are contributing to more accountable governance and improved outcomes for the citizens we all serve. I thank you and wish you productive and meaningful engagements during this strategic review. I thank you, Your Excellency.
Thereafter, the President of Liberia, Joseph Boga, mounted the podium to appreciate the delegates for choosing Liberia to host this accountability conference, demonstrating what he calls Liberia's commitment to the fight against corruption.
Now, Gasper, I see why you do so well. I didn't know you were a member of AFROSA. Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Madam Pro Tem of the Senate, the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, former President Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and I want to also, in a special way, recognize our former Minister of Finance, Dr. Sai, Madam Nancy Katungu, Chair of AFROSA-E, Auditor General of Kenya, our distinguished Auditor General of AFROSA-E and delegates, Madam Christina Haberg, Auditor General of Sweden, members of the Diplomatic Corps and development partners, civil society organizations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure and honor that I warmly welcome you, Liberia, for the 22nd Governing Board meeting and the 2026 Strategic Review Program of the African Organization of English-Speaking Supreme Audit Institutions, AFROSA-E. On behalf of the government, people of Liberia, I extend greetings to these distinguished delegates from the 26 member states represented here today. Your President Monrovia underscores our commitment to accountability, transparency, and good governance across the continent. I wish to particularly commend the General Auditing Commission of Liberia under the leadership of Auditor General Honorable P. Gasua Jackson Sr. And I say this with all sincerity, it was good for Liberia to have you as our auditor general. And thank you for successfully bringing this prestigious gathering to Liberia for the first time since the establishment of AFROSA-E. This is a proud moment for our country and a strong vote of confidence in Liberia's growing commitment to public sector accountability and institutional reform. I would also like to thank him personally for his excellent stewardship at the General Auditing Commission. AFROSA-E remains one of Africa's most important regional accountability platforms. Since its founding, the organization has played a critical role in strengthening the institutional capacity and the independence of supreme audit institutions throughout English-speaking Africa. Through peer learning, professional development, and regional cooperation, AFROSA-E continues to advance auditing standards and improve public financial management for the benefit of the African people. This year's conference is particularly significant because it offers the opportunity to review the progress on the 2025 to 2029 strategic plan, deepen institutional cooperation, and renew commitments to transparency and accountability. Over the next several days, distinguished Auditor Generals and experts will deliberate on key audit-related issues during the Governing Board meeting and strategic review sessions held in Monrovia. We are confident that these engagements will lead to meaningful resolutions that strengthen regional audit cooperation, enhance peer support mechanisms, reinforce the independence of supreme audit institutions, improve oversight of public resources, and contribute to the broader aspirations of African Union Agenda 2063. Ladies and gentlemen, Liberia is hosting this conference for special historical and national significance. It has long been said that Liberia's crisis is fundamentally a crisis of governance. Years of weak institutions, lack of accountability, abuse of public trust, poor stewardship of national resources contributed significantly to the instability and the conflict in our country. As part of the overall strategy to bring sustainable peace in Liberia after years of civil conflict, the Africa Comprehensive Peace Agreement established several critical institutions to address some of the root causes of our conflict, including corruption, weak governance, lack of accountability, and deficits in accountability and integrity. Among these institutions were the National Election Commission, the Contracts and Monopolies Commission, now the Public Procurement and Concession Commission, the Governance Commission, the Independent National Human Rights Commission, and the now defunct Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Although not explicitly mentioned in the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, the establishment of the General Auditing Commission 2 years later as a separate and independent institution was very much in keeping with the spirit and intent of that vision. It reflected a growing recognition that strong oversight institutions are indispensable for the maintenance of peace, safeguarding democracy, and ensuring responsible stewardship of public resources. Throughout my presidential campaign, Liberians repeatedly urged us to address corruption. And since assuming office, they have continued to urge our administration to address issues of accountability and public sector performance. The Liberian people rightly expect their leaders to manage public resources honestly and effectively, and to ensure that the government serves the people of Liberia. For these reasons and more, I have consistently reminded public officials that they were not appointed to be served, but to serve. That they were appointed to deliver results and improve the lives of the Liberian people. They must therefore demonstrate stewardship, responsibility, and integrity in managing the resources entrusted to them. This commitment to performance and accountability is why my administration has introduced performance management systems across government institutions to ensure measurable delivery, efficiency, and greater responsibility and responsive to the needs of our citizens. Today, Liberia continues to advance the vision through deliberate reforms to promote integrity, accountability, and public trust in government. Under the administration, we have undertaken several important measures to strengthen transparency institutions and combat corruption. These include the inaugural audit conducted by the General Auditing Commission of the Office of the President, the Judiciary, the Legislature, and the Central Bank of Liberia. A major step toward ensuring that all public institutions remain subject to scrutiny and accountability. We've also established and implemented additional anti-corruption mechanisms, including the Office of the Ombudsman, the Asset Recovery Task Force, and the process to establish a war and economic crimes court. In furtherance of our commitment to integrity in public service, we have enforced asset declaration requirements for all presidential appointments, including the president, including the suspension and fines of non-compliant officials. And by the way, the money that was generated from the fines was used to purchase chairs for students. We've also respected and protected the tenures of heads of transparency and accountability institutions who have demonstrated political neutrality and professionalism in the discharge of their duties. My administration now would also prioritize direct institutional support for integrity institutions. Notably, the General Auditing Commission received full budgetary allocation in fiscal year 2024-2025, an unprecedented development in our country's recent history. Additionally, consistent with the provision of the GSE Act of 2014, We operationalized the Commission's financial independence by disbursing 50% of its approved annual budget immediately after the national budget was passed. And I'm glad he just told you that. We have also demonstrated zero tolerance for the misuse of public resources by dismissing and suspending government officials implicated in acts of misappropriation and financial misconduct. Distinguished delegates, Liberia, like many African nations, is not poor. Africa is richly endowed with abundant natural resources, fertile soil, vast mineral wealth, and most importantly, dynamic and youthful population with enormous potential. Across such of our continent, nearly 60% of the population is under the age 28. This demographic dividend offers tremendous opportunities for innovation, productivity, entrepreneurship, and economic transformation. To harness these opportunities, we must manage our resources effectively, strengthen our institutions, and ensure that public resources are used transparently and effectively for the benefit of our people. The work you do as a Supreme Audit institution goes beyond financial compliance. You serve as guardians of the public trust, defenders of institutional integrity, and protectors of our democratic and accountability institutions. Strong, independent audit institutions are essential pillars of sustainable development, investor confidence, and social stability. Africa's development aspirations cannot be achieved without accountable governance systems and prudent management of public resources. Your work, therefore, directly contributes to the building of its resilient states and improving the lives of our citizens. As the host country, Liberia remains committed to collaborating with regional and international partners to strengthen transparent institutions and promote responsible governance across the continent. I want to encourage all delegates to use this gathering not only to exchange professional experiences and technical knowledge, but to also deepen solidarity among African oversight institutions as we pursue our common development objective. Let me once again welcome you to Monrovia and wish you a productive deliberations and pleasant stay in Liberia. I just spoke with the Auditor General because I'm so impressed with who you are and what you do. I have special presidential pins that I'm going to give to the Auditor General to pin all of our 26 auditors so that you remember not just your visits here, but what we see you to be and how we hold you in high esteem for what you do for humanity. So it is now my honor to open the 22nd Governing Board meeting in the 2026 Strategic Review Program of AFROSA-E. I want to officially thank you very much, and God bless you. And by the way, let me just show one of the things we're going to leave with you. The Auditor General. These are special presidential things in gratitude for coming to Liberia. Thank you.
then break-up session in the afternoon, when delegates converged in the ballroom of the ministerial complex to begin discussion on its 2026 strategic review. Key among this gathering were panel discussions on countless number of topical issues. These were inclusive with the presentation of technical papers on how SAR can strengthen debt portfolio in its audits and the independence of supreme audit institutions, delivered by former President Eddie Johnson Sirleaf and former Finance Minister Dr. Anthony Sayed.
With your permission, I shall stand on the existing protocol that has been well given in the earlier session. It is a profound honor to be invited to address this distinguished gathering on the occasion of the AFROSA-E Governing Board meeting. To the Auditor General, all of you assembled in this room, you are among the most consequential public servants on this continent. Your work, independent, rigorous, and often thankless, is the bedrock upon which democratic governance is built. Without the work of the supreme audit institutions, governments cannot make progress, and promises may go unexamined, with resources spent and unaccounted for. In the words of Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the United Nations, I quote, "Transparency, accountability, and the rule of law are the fundamentals upon which sustainable development is built." I'm therefore grateful for the work that AFROSA-E does in convening this platform, and particularly pleased that this meeting is held in Monrovia, the capital of the nation whose struggle for transparency and accountability I have had the privilege of leading and helping to shape. When I assumed the presidency of Liberia in January 2006, I inherited a nation emerging from 14 years of brutal and civil conflict. Our public institutions had been hollowed out. Public trust was at its lowest ebb. The national treasury was effectively empty, and a culture of impunity in which public resources were treated as the private property of those in power had taken deep root. It was clear to me then, as it remains clear to me now, that rebuilding Liberia was not primarily a question of financing or infrastructure development. It was a question of governance. Without transparency, there could be no accountability. Without accountability, there could be no sustainable development. And without sustainable development, the peace we had fought so hard to achieve would remain fragile. We have thus tried, over the years of my presidency and those that followed, to build a governance structure that would transform Liberia's public financial management. By the Act of 2014, the General Auditing Commission was legally given operational independence with 10-year protections, defined reporting obligations to the legislature, and the authority to assess all public accounts and relevant records across every ministry, agency, and state-owned enterprises. The General Auditing Commission was not simply a legislative formality. It was the culmination of a deliberate, multi-year effort to insulate the Auditor General's office from political interference, to establish clear statutory authority for its mandate, and to ensure that its findings could not be quietly buried in the drawers of those it was charged with examining. I'm proud that in passing this act, Liberia aligned itself with the Lima Declaration principles that this very organization, your organization, champions. Principles affecting that the independence of supreme audit institution is not a privilege to be granted, but a constitutional and statutory imperative that governments must enshrine and protect. I say to you, the Auditor Generals gathered here, the work you do requires not only professional competence, but personal courage. And the institutions you lead require legal protection that matches your courage. I urge each of you and your governments, including my own, to review your enabling legislation regularly and to resist every temptation to limit your independence in the name of administrative convenience or political sensitivity. However, recognizing that no single institution can carry the full weight of accountability in a democratic society, we moved ahead to create an ecosystem of institutions that embodied the coherence and cooperation of its many parts. The Governance Commission, created in 2003 by the interim government, was given the mandate to review Liberia's laws, policies, and institutional arrangement and recommend reforms that would make governance more transparent, participatory, and responsive. In a country where the legal framework has been elected or manipulated for decades, having a dedicated body to auditing governance itself, not just finance, but the rule and structures that govern how decisions are made, was for us most fundamental. We then established the Internal Audit Agency, mainly to ensure that our commitment for accountability took root from within, thereby ensuring corrective measures in time. Internal audit creates problems, catches problems in time before public resources are lost and bad practices become entrenched. The Internal Audit Agency gave every ministry and agency access to professional internal audits operating on a common standards, and it created a cadre of accountability professionals that have continued to grow. This for us was followed by the Public Procurement and Concessions Commission to address what was at all time, and perhaps even now, the most significant sources of corruption and revenue loss in Liberia's public sector. Procurement contracts and natural resource concessions have long been awarded through opaque discriminatory processes that enrich the well-connected at the expense of the public. The PPCC introduced competitive bidding requirements, public disclosure obligations, and an institutional watchdog with the authority and mandate to enforce them. I believe that under this framework, Liberia's natural resource governments improved substantially, a transformation recognized and then linked to our ability to attract legitimate investment. Subsequently, the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission was also established in direct response to the corrosive culture of impunity with investigative authority, prosecutorial referral powers, and a mandate to not only pursue corruption cases, but to prevent corruption through education, public awareness, and institutional reform. Fighting corruption is not only a law enforcement task, it is a cultural and institutional transformation. And LACC was designed to pursue both dimensions. Additionally, to the credit of successive governments, the Financial Intelligence Agency gave Liberia a critical tool for tracking illicit financial flows, monitoring suspicious transactions, and cooperating with international partners in the global effort to combat money laundering and financial crime in a globalized economy where stolen public resources can be moved across borders in an instant. In a domestic audit and accountability framework that does not include a financial intelligence capability is fundamentally incomplete. Institutions and laws are necessary, but they are not sufficient. Accountability ultimately depends on an informed and engaged citizenry. People who know what their governments have promised, what resources it has collected, and how those resources have been spent, and whether the outcomes delivered match the commitments made. This requires a functioning budget system, and in the case of Liberia, an allocation efficiency to address, at that time, the huge debt liability which our country faced. I know that you will hear more about this by the remarks that will be made tomorrow by the former Finance Minister. This commitment was the animating conviction behind Liberia's participation in and commitment to the Open Budget Initiative. When our administration embraced the Open Budget Framework, we were making a deliberate and public promise that the national budget would no longer be a document produced for international creditors and posted on a government website that few citizens ever visited. It would be a genuine communication, translated into accessible formats, shared with communities, explained in plain language, and open to public scrutiny and participation. We knew then, and we know now, that together these institutions, an interlocking system of accountability, is still not enough. A greater collective effort is required through effective governance with functions that citizens must trust. Trust earned through commitment, accountable, and open conduct in public affairs. When a citizen pays their taxes sends their child to a public school or visit a government health facility, they are making a silent agreement that in exchange for their compliance, government will deliver services that are fair, efficient, and free from corruption. As auditors, you have a role to play in the building of this trust among the key institutions of integrity. We expect you, through proper experience and training, to build the domain capacity to undertake effectively the responsibility given to you. The result of your work must always reflect and be seen as a valuable imperative for justice, for development, and for the retention of public trust. I know also from experience that the success of your work requires a political will from the executive, most of all, and also sometimes, more importantly, from the legislature or parliament, which has certain constitutional responsibility for the allotment of public resources. If the decisions and action by those two bodies fail to do what is right, we endanger the process of development and impose unforeseen action by the judiciary. Let me say more. In the words of Robert Zulik, the former president of the World Bank, he said, corruption is not a natural disaster. It is the cold, calculated theft of opportunity from the men, women, and children who are least able to protect themselves. Thus, the prime responsibility rests with leaders who exemplify through policies and actions the decisions that build the trust with their citizens. No individual, regardless of position, wealth, or political standing, and no institution should be more above the law. Integrity bodies must be charged and must investigate without fear of favor and without political interference. Message to our continent. The African continent is at a critical juncture. We have made extraordinary progress in recent decades in economic growth, in democratic governance, in public health, in education. But we continue, sadly, to lose billions of dollars each year to corruption, mismanagement, and illicit financial flows. Resources that should be used to build schools and hospitals and roads are sometimes missing. In many cases, what has happened goes undetected for years, and sometimes there's never a penalty that is paid. To you, the representatives of 22nd, and to our partners, representatives here, the IMF, the World Bank, the African Union, the African Development Bank, and all others, partner institutions present, your engagement with this process is not charity. It enlightens self-interest. Strong audit institutions in Africa means more effective development investment. They mean better sovereign credit profiles. They mean more stable and predictable government environments. They mean citizens who trust their governments through paying their taxes and participating in civil life. The returns on investment in audit capacity are among the highest of any governance intervention. And I trust you to treat them accordingly and to so work with them to achieve the results of your noble endeavors. I stand here when I talk about trying to remember what we did. I did so not to try to offer a triumphant account of Liberia's governance journey. We made mistakes. Institutions we built were sometimes under-resourced or underprotected. Our progress was uneven. The culture of accountability we sought to instill had many challenges, and they still do today. Clearly, government does not stand alone in carrying our positions of public trust. It requires all of us, civil society, the private sector, the media, our development partners, and above all of us, the citizens, to commit in their words and action, a commitment to an effort where integrity is not the exception, but the expectation. And it also requires, in most times, also in our country, a genuine cultural shift in the values and expectations that govern public life. I thank you for what you do to bring all of these factors of ensuring that in governance we do what we are supposed to do. We serve the people, and we use the resources of country for the people. May God bless all of you as you carry out your functions.
On the end of day 2, Liberia offered her story beyond the spreadsheets when Auditors General boarded a bus for a city tour in Central Monrovia, showcasing Liberia's main public buildings. The wall-in took them to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Legislature, the Executive Mansion, the historic Providence Baptist Church, and the National Museum. The Auditors General then made a brief stop at the offices of the General Auditing Commission. Then came the signing of a memorandum of understanding between SAR Gambia and SAR Eswatini on audit follow-up recommendations and data analytics. SAR Liberia provides technical assistance to these sites as regards audit follow-up recommendations and how to reduce audits using data analytics. The week-long activity ended in Marshall, Maigibi County, where the Liberia Maritime Training Institute became the site of attraction. At this stage, the Atlantic Ocean greeted hundreds of delegates. These gatherings traded stories, not of findings and recommendations from other reports, but of family, culture, and shared challenges. Then came the drummers, putting South African, Kenyan, and Liberian auditors dancing side by side, which shows a pictorial metaphor to regional integration. As delegations departed, many carry more than policy documents. They carry an image of Liberia not as a post-conflict nation, but as a governing ground for Africa's accountability. The 22nd AFROSA-E Governing Board meeting in Monrovia did not just audit the past, it invested in the future where African sides lead, innovate, and hold together to ensure accountability.